Welcome back to another episode of Canon on the Boom Bust channel. I'm your host Terry, and today talking about the new Superman trailer slash movie coming up in July. Less than 2 months coming out, or something like that. Maybe around a little more than 2 months. I forgot what day it actually comes out, but anyway, want to talk about this real quick. I'm not a fan of the way this movie is looking, but this is a very nuanced, very layered discussion, because, like all things that is art is subjective and everybody has their own, feelings on it, and that's cool. But then when it comes to movies and stuff, you have trailers and marketing. Those are marketing tools, but you could argue that's its own form of art. And what happens with a trailer in terms of how well put together it is and all that is independent of the actual movie. That's why you always go see the movie itself, because that's the final product that we'll judge. But the movie's not out. We haven't seen that, and we'll do that when it comes out. But right now, the images, the content, all that in the in the trailer is also its own thing. How the trailer's packaged together is its own thing. And then, like most things in 2025, the internet or the social discourse around the product or the project is its own separate thing. And I say internet because that's where most of the conversation happens these days. And so those are all different things. And when you say something either for or against a movie, TV show, whatever, music, people are going to conflate all those things. They're going to conflate how they feel about Zack Snyder, how they feel about James Gunn, how they feel about the trailer, how they feel about the images, how they feel about the casting. You still got some Marvel heads out there, how they feel about Marvel. People who are still underdeveloped and think it's a war between DC and Marvel. All that gets conflated into the conversation whenever you say something. And so I want to make sure I'm being very clear and nuanced in that conversation. So I want this, for people who've listened to me before, this isn't new, but I just want to say up top, I'm a fan of some of the work Snyder did with DC. What people call the DCEU. I will not be referring to it as that. But I'm a fan of some of that stuff, not all of it. Basically, I really love Man of Steel, big defender of BVS, but I was not a release the Snyder cut type of person. Like, I didn't, and even when it came out, I thought it was just okay. Not a fan of the Whedon version, but I thought the Snyder version was just okay. I don't really have a big allegiance either way about Zack Snyder. Like I said, I like some of the stuff he did. I like the direction he was going. The biggest thing that I could say is that I appreciate it, and this was mostly Nolan. People do not give it credit. This is mostly Christopher Nolan, his brother, but they set the stage for, let's look at this obviously more grounded as you can with Superman, but let's give him an arc. Let's give him a character arc. Not only are we going to look at how the world might react to a Superman, both as a kid growing up and as an adult, but also how that would shape Superman and his view of the world, and then put him on a journey to where he could actually become the Superman we got to know. Now, we never got to that point because of business and people being very limited in their thinking, but I won't put that on them. That's how they felt. But to me, it's one thing to say you didn't like it, but I don't think you can't objectively disagree that that was an intentional arc, because it was all set up there for Superman to end up where people probably wanted him to start off as. And we've heard this whole entire time that People just want him to be good for no reason. He's just good. And they don't really appreciate this idea of him arcing to that. And hey, that's a preference. So that's where we are. For me, I really love that and I respected what Snyder tried to do. But again, I'm not a Snyder bro by any means. James Gunn, not a fan of his. Not a fan of his at all. And that's, again, it's art. Not everything's for everybody. I don't think it's a situation where it's like, oh, this guy doesn't have talent or anything like that. It's hard to say that when it comes to art. I just think his style is not something that I like at all. So, like, I know people, obviously, he has his older stuff, which I've never watched, never will. Not into weird. He is super weird, and I don't like that. People are over the heels about Guardians. I'm not. The one I like the most is the one people like the least, which is number 2. And I really enjoy Guardians 2. And it's not that I think the other ones are bad. I really did not like 3, to be honest. I didn't like 3 at all. But, people go crazy for that. Hated Suicide Squad. Love Peacemaker. I think as a whole, I love Peacemaker. And I don't want to get into the whole series thing, but at this point, it's just hard not to say series are just the better form art or like storytelling form. Because if Peacemaker had to be a movie, I probably would have hated it. The fact that we had more time to stretch out and breathe, where, okay, because James Gunn has shown he's going to throw his weirdo stuff in there. He's going to sacrifice anything else besides his weirdo stuff. So the fact that Peacemaker was long enough where we could get a balance of like, yeah, there's scenes and imagery that I'm like, geez, we really did not need to do that at all. But then there's a lot of good stuff in there too. So I like Peacemaker. But other than that, not a James Gunn guy. And that's cool. So that's how I feel coming at this particular movie. Now, again, I'm going to see the movie itself and we'll judge the final product. But as far as like what we've seen leading up, I wasn't a big fan. Like some of the casting I like, some of it I didn't. Some of the things I've seen, plot points, story beats, I like, some of it I didn't. Then we finally start to get to see like actual footage. And I think it looks good, but I was kind of mixed on the cast. Now that this trailer dropped and I think we got a fuller representation of certain people, not everybody, I'm still not optimistic. I feel like number one, Nicholas Hoult is probably my biggest issue. Now, this is Superman's main antagonist, more than likely in the movie, but also going forward. I just never liked Nicholas Hoult as Lex. I really don't. And this is a person that likes Jesse Eisenberg, because if you said, hey, we're going to do this with Lex, I'm open to that. And that's what they did. This Lex was supposed to be more prototypical Lex, and I don't think Nicholas Hoult is a good fit. And to be honest, I've seen a lot of his work, and I think people give his range more credit than he deserves. There's people just like, oh, you see this role, he can play this, play that. I don't really agree as much, especially when it comes to antagonists. I don't think him as an antagonist ever comes across as dark. Doesn't really come across as menacing. Doesn't come across as threatening or powerful. Comes across more as whiny or maniacal or just, I don't know, weird probably. Which probably is why Gunn got him. But anyway, like, we finally got some extended dialogue from Lex. Get to see him move around, and it does not feel like Lex to me. I mean, thank God he did not get Batman or Superman either, but he's not Lex either. I think honestly Beast was probably a good role for him. Lex, it's not working for me at all. And I hope it's different in the movie, but I highly doubt that it will be. Because there's like, even in this trailer, when he delivers the line, something along the lines of, he was saying, I won't let that happen, or I can't let that happen because everybody's talking about Superman. That felt so flat. Like, and I'm not saying this actor should be Lex, but think of a Javier Bardem delivering that line, or Idris Elba, or even a Bryan Cranston. Everybody fan cast him. Like, there's power. There's I don't know what word I keep forgetting what word I'm trying to think of. There's presence in those guys. Like, Nicholas Hoult does not have that. I'm not a fan of what he's doing with Lex. Lois as well. I was very apprehensive about that. But if you didn't see Marvelous Miss Maisel, won't matter to you. They could cast Denzel, it won't matter, because if you didn't see Denzel, or if you've never seen Denzel, it won't matter to you. But obviously most people have. Not everybody has seen Miss Maisel, so it might not matter. But for people like me who have, we spent a lot of time, a lot of years with her. I thought the characters were too close. Again, unless you were going to do something different with Lois, but now we can't confirm. We're doing the quick wit, the snappy, quippy, back and forth banter type Lois. And to me, that was too close to Midge. And so I have a hard time seeing nothing but Miss Maisel. And again, everybody judges movies differently. For me, when things like that take me out of the movie, it's less enjoyable. And we got an extended scene with her. Again, I was waiting. I didn't trash anything. I said, hey, I gotta wait and see. We got an extended scene, and I hated everything about that exchange with her and Clark, to be honest with you. And so, and obviously, I think she's talented. I just don't really like this casting. But we'll see how the rest of it plays out in the movie. But it did feel kind of like I feared it would. So yeah, there's some things with the casting, and then overall, it's a very bloated cast list. We don't know how long these people are going to be in. At this point, we've seen the other heroes in at least 3 different sequences. So I think it's safe to say they're going to be in the movie. And then the rest of all these side characters and stuff, we'll see. That might be 1 or 2 sequences. But either way, it's going to be a lot. And I don't really believe James is going to balance it well. And so that worries me. And again, as we see more, then it confirms, like to me, like Crypto. And I don't got an issue with Crypto in terms of a character. It's James Gunn. James Gunn, red flags, giant kaiju monster, just because that's what he's into. I don't think it's going to be as weird as these other things he's done, but because it's Superman, but giant kaiju monster, we got to have that. We got to have dogs in here because he's got some type of dog fetish. And not, let's get Crypto. No, let's make him look like my dog. Let's put him in here because I had a dog and we did this, and I thought it'd be cool to add this in because I think I'm Superman and this movie is about me. So we got this James Gunn type Crypto. Again, in itself, not really a negative. We saw him a number of times in one sequence. And some people was like, I don't want no Crypto movie. And to me, I never said that because I'm like, we only seen him in one sequence. We don't know how much of the movie he's in. Now we've seen, at least 2 more sequences that Crypto's in. See, this is what I'm talking about. As you get to see more, now you start getting more representation of the movie. So now that we've got to this point, I feel safer in saying there's a lot of characters in there that are going to be in the movie for a decent amount of time. Not sure how he's going to balance it. There's a decent amount of Crypto in there. I'm not for the James Gunn animal fetish train like everybody else is. So I'm like, okay, Worried about how they're going to do that. Um, and then again, like I said, we saw more of Lex and Lois. Not liking what I'm seeing. But I like the way it looks. I think it looks sharp. Corn Sweat, I'm still not sure that I really feel Superman from him, but he hasn't done anything negative. We'll see. We'll see how he comes across in a full movie. But yeah, up until this point, it feels like James Gunn, the movie, Superman flavor. And that's what I was worried about from day one. And I think looking at all the, again, you could look at it and be like, no, you like that stuff. That's perfectly fine. But for me, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this lines up with kind of what I was worried about. But we will always leave the ultimate judgment to the actual movie. So that's my thoughts on it. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share around, get the conversation started. Remember, if you heard it, it's official canon.